good morning, and good morning. I am back. I am back. As they said, good day, good day. I absolutely loved, adored Down Under. I didn't realize that long trip would take me to a place that was just so uniquely different, but yet had similarities that made me feel like I was just arriving in another portion of the world that spoke English. The people were friendly. There was a lot to do. It was just amazing. It was amazing to just see the beauty of another portion of the world. I had been to Europe. I had done Europe for many years. I lived there for 4, so that was good. But to finally get to Down Under, and let me tell you that the trip alone, okay, uh, I left from Florida into Houston, Texas, going from Houston into San Francisco, and in San Francisco, oh my God, the ride, the longest ride is what it should have been said. That was almost 16 hours. In fact, we were in the air. I had gone to sleep for a second. You notice I said for a second because I was already mixed up. And hey, Miss Joan, how are you, sweetie? I had gone to sleep for a second. And when I woke up, I swore we were almost there. And the man next to me said, no. And he opened up the map to show me that it was 7.5 hours remaining on the flight. Then I got a little miserable. I was like, okay, I can't let anxiety take over. This is a trip of a lifetime, an opportunity to meet other people in the world that are doing what you do, which is trying to, just have a way that just says that you care about others beyond yourself and bigger than you are ever, and to see that collective body. So I calmed myself down and, did a puzzle or something, and that kind of, settled me. But the ride was absolutely long, to the point where I was thinking, this is crazy. But once it opened up, I don't know if you've ever been a person that watched, The Wizard of Oz, when, Alice gets through, I mean, not Alice, but whatever her name is, clicking her heels 3 times. When she gets to the city where the yellow brick road was and opens it up, that's how this was to me. To just see that city, it almost looked futuristic. All the buildings were different than the buildings that we have here in the States. I've never seen a city look like that. And I've been to pretty much most of the big cities in the United States, but I was just amazed. The buildings were huge. Good morning, Rhonda. The buildings were huge. And they would take the bottoms of the buildings would be like, I would say ancient or old, okay? And they would build on top of the old buildings, these new constructions. And I'm thinking, wow, that's pretty bold. But the buildings would be colors of purples and blues and greens and grays and, pinks. I'm like, wow, glass. It would be glass and metals that were just absolutely stunning to see. I tell you, when I tell you I was amazed, I was amazed. And it just showed me that, life beyond our country there's so much to it that we don't know. We don't know how other people live. We don't know how they behave. But immediately when I arrived, I was in shock because they ride on the opposite side of the road as Americans do, and they also ride on the opposite side of the car. So when I went to get in the car, I went on the side of the car. Good morning, babies. I went on the side of the car that normally I would have gotten in on in America. To no. And he says, oh, no, no, no. You get on the other side of the car. And they drove from the right hand side of the car, and then they drive on the left side. Like we do everything right, they do everything left. And even when I know I would have an accident within 5 minutes of getting on their roads, because they even, like, we have a roundabout that does it in a certain way. Their roundabout may go around two other roads coming towards them. That just freaked me out. So you may actually be facing the people that you're going to turn left on, and yet and still there's people still coming towards you. So that kind of freaked me out, but I loved it. I just loved it. And got to my hotel, and I decided I was gonna act like I knew what I was doing. So I said, I want a hotel room I want a high floor because I want to see something. I don't want to be down in the weeds of the buildings, because I realized that the lower you're down, the less you would see. So the concierge was very much enthusiastic and giving me what I wanted. They gave me a corner room where I could see in both directions, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. So one of the pictures that I posted shows the view from my room, and it had all that purple and blue and green in the picture, and I'm thinking that just looks like a postcard. But that was my view. That was my view. Now, when we get down to the food and stuff, that's interesting. And then today I decided I was going to talk a little bit about Rotary. And I wasn't going to do it the typical breakdown way that I normally do my other words, but I wanted to just talk about the fact that it's like a huge worldwide service organization. And when I tell you that when I walked into the arena, there were almost, well, it said it holds 15,000 when I looked it up, but it was packed out totally. And they even started early, so I could hardly find a seat. But it was packed out with people from every corner of the world you can think of. They were there. They were there in their dress. They were there in their happiness, their attitudes. They were all pleasant. Everybody wanted to meet everybody. I got a lot of cards and exchanging information, and they were extremely friendly, extremely wanting to meet people from other nations. And the fact is that they were just beautiful people. And I said, well, this is a perfect organization for me, because I've always wanted to do good in the world, and that's certainly part of what Rotary is all about. It's service above self. And I tell you, I was amazed from the time I got there. Now, let's go one step further. The walking, even though I was able to get the trams in the city, they have these trams. They're like buses, but they almost remind you of the cars in that you can ride on in cable cars like that, but they're not on the cable. They're actually railed cars that you get on. And their trams are called trams, and I rode them thinking I knew everything until I got lost a few times. And once I got off and finally decided that I was gonna, ask somebody, and I wasn't gonna be like I was a typical, person that knew everything, and they would say, "Oh, good day. You are a long way from where you need to go." What? That's because I got off at the wrong stop, because the roads run in such a way that you may hear it's going via a street, and I misheard, and they were packed to the point where there were so many people around us, and I'm like, okay, good thing I don't have claustrophobic behavior going on. But there were a lot of people around us, and you really had to listen. And then they had protesters. I don't know if you've seen my post, but they had protesters that were environmental protesters that were going on in the streets, and that was very interesting to watch, that they were expressing the fact that they think that environmentally we are not doing enough in the world. It wasn't just in Australia, because they have those here too. Greenpeace and all of those are all about making sure that, we're leaving the land, the water, the earth, available to whoever comes behind us. And they were holding up the tram. So, if you got on a tram and, the tram may be held up for 30 minutes or more until the police came to escort. And it was all peaceful, very, very peaceful. They ushered them off the tracks and we would proceed on to the next location. But for the most part, they were peaceful, and they were trying to get their point across. A couple of times, I remember getting off thinking that I knew where I was going. Not so well. A few times I knew exactly where I was going, and other times I didn't. And they would always say, "Oh, well, you're about 6 blocks over from here, and about 5 more blocks for that." And I would walk and walk, and every day I was probably putting in anywhere from 10 to 12,000 steps a day, which is like 3.5 miles, almost 4 miles, where I was walking. So I probably lost a pound or two over in Melbourne. And they don't say Melbourne. They don't say Melbourne. They say Melbourne, Melbourne. And and then I said, but how do you say the other words that have Bourn? And they said, oh, that they pronounce all the way out. But Melbourne, it became like a local way of addressing those who lived in that portion of the country. So I learned how to say it, because every time I would say it the other way, they'd look at me like, "Are you trying to say?" And so eventually it just became a part of my talk. In terms of the restaurants are really, really interesting. Let me first go with the dollar. Our $1, which probably is worth less for us these days, over there it was worth, at the time when I checked in, it was 1.52, and then it fluctuated to 1.45. So when I left, it was 1.45. So every one of our dollars, earned about 0.45 more cents than theirs would be used. So, obviously it was a good thing for us to go ahead and pay. If we could, they could not take any American money. So if you used your card, then you were only charged whatever that conversion would be. Whereas if you use their money, you'd have to pay whatever it is, and it would be, the value just changes. So when I could, I used my card. When I couldn't, I didn't. We next to the convention center, oh my God, and everything was so spread apart. When I tell you that they had an arena for when we had the big general sessions, and that was probably a good, I don't know, maybe 7-8 miles from the downtown convention center. So, if you didn't pay attention, and what I find, and that will be one of my write-ups, is that it was a good distance between locations. It was a lot of walking, and the instructions were not there. When we picked up our lanyards, all they gave you was your name. That's it. So after that, you had to figure it out. Now they had a house of friendship, which was wonderful. So the house of friendship had probably, I'm going to say, 500 or 600 booths in it. It was huge. And then they had food carts around if you wanted to sit and have a bite to eat with people. But the booths were all types of booths from the various countries. Now, they did not have a Rotary booth from America there, and probably because the cost was so much to even get there and then ship all of their stuff. So one of the things about those overseas locations is that they're so far out, and shipping has just gotten outrageous. So we were not able to purchase any of the American Rotary stuff, but they had people, representatives from India, from China, from all of Korea. They had and these are are clubs, as well as businesses that work in that area of making sure that you had Rotary paraphernalia, that you had stuff that you could take home with you. They had clothes with Rotary on it. I had never seen that. I mean, I've seen, I did buy myself a I Love Melbourne shirt. I did buy that. And I have somebody gave me one of the clip-on koala bears. And so that was really wonderful too. But let me ask you a question. Would any of you ever travel knowing that it is out of, and this is just out of, I was out of San Francisco. It was 15 hours and I'm going to say almost like 48 minutes because we were running a little late. We might as well just say 16 hours. Would you take it? Let me know. Would you take that trip to learn that you'd go someplace and be absolutely mesmerized by what's there? Was certainly amazing to me. And so it was certainly a gift, and I appreciate the gift from my Rotary Club, as well as God, that I got there and returned home safely. There were people every single where you could think of, they were there. And it was such a most likely not. Actually, you would, if you had something to entertain you, you probably could do it. Let me talk about the airlines a second. I just wanted to make sure I did my best on putting the information out there. Yes, I would take the trip. I know you would, Juanita, because it's nothing for you to go to Germany, and all over, Europe, and you've been to the Far East too, right? She would do it. That is, in fact, she booked my flight. She is Juanita. And Juanita has a travel agency company out of, actually, she's out of this area here in Florida. So if you need something done, she can certainly help you with that. I would if I were younger. Actually, there were people that were my age and older that were there. There were people that were in wheelchairs. There were people that were, I don't know how far they came, but I do believe that they were not, Australian. They were from America and other locations, and they utilized, the services in the airport of needing assistance and all of that. And they were getting around the convention centers and the arena, and they had locations for them that were designated just for them. So yes, it, as they say, it definitely did happen where people came from those areas. Their food was interesting. I probably lost a pound there too. I know the guy kept trying to tell me, "Hey, good morning, sweet pea." Good morning, Marion. How are you? Yes, thank you. Glad I'm back. It was great hearing from you. And I'm trying to get myself together. I was like out of it I got back late Thursday night, but Friday I just felt, I didn't feel bad. I just felt drained, felt tired. And Saturday too, my daughter came over to make sure I went out with her to eat and pay. So I did that. But I was back to it yesterday. So I went to church and I got to sing with the choir, and so I'm back into my routine of understanding Central Time. But I was truly, 15 hours ahead of Florida, the portion of Florida I live in. And I was like, wow, that's a lot. So I'm trying to figure out, what time do I call? When do I need to get a hold of this person and that person? And it worked out well. But it was definitely an interesting opportunity to, deal with money, dealing with different culture. I gotta admit, two people tried to act like I should stay there. They said, "And how old are you?" And I'm like, "What?" And well, do you like Australia? Yeah, but not to stay. I came to visit, and I will be headed on back up out of here come the 1st of June. And that's just what I did. But they were just an interesting people. They were loving and caring, and they were not caught up on you needing help. They were like there to do just that. I just remember going to a restaurant, and I didn't understand the food, and they had things like Aussie pie. An Aussie pie, and I don't know what's in it, but it had like a gravy and a meat, and it was in like I would say almost like a I think it's called filet type dough. No, not for me. So I didn't eat anything like that. I didn't try their food. They have a lot. They're big on croissants, and I'm not. So I didn't fool with those either. In fact, the gentleman at the concierge desk, when I came in, my room wasn't quite ready. So he actually made sure I had a coffee. Their espresso was like mind blowing. Good morning, Miss Rosie. I missed you too. I missed everybody. I missed you guys. And I didn't know how I could do a broadcast from over there. I had my stuff with me, but I said, I'm going to be asleep or they're going to be asleep. So I might as well just wait till I come back. But he made sure I had an espresso coffee. Their coffee is strong. When I tell you, you are like, boom, soon, first sip, you're awake. You are definitely awake. But they can and I had a latte flat. That was my favorite coffee there, which was coffee, but it had more milk in it than their regular coffee. And so that was really an experience once I figured out what I should have and what I shouldn't have. Around in there, they had this place called the DFO. No, the FDO, excuse me, FDO. And it was like a outlet. And the outlet had a new Nike store that opened. And my daughter, when I said, man, they said that this Nike store, and I saw a man outside the entrance of where you go into the outlet, and he had like 8 or 10 pairs of Nikes. And I said, wonder what's going on. So we asked him, and he said literally that those particular shoes in the States, you couldn't afford them, but there you can. So of course I bought my daughter a pair of shoes, a sweatshirt and a t-shirt from Nike. And we figured out once we paid with American money, it was really a good deal. It was a good deal. So we looked at some of everything, from the food to the walking to the architecture. I mean, I took so many pictures of the buildings. I was just mesmerized. No matter where I went, I was caught up on the buildings and how they looked. I was just absolutely blown away. Now I'm going to take you now over to, I know your word for the day is rest. I'm going to rest when I finish. I went to the zoo, and let me tell you about that Tasmanian devil. He looks just like the one that they had, the little Tasmanian devil on the cartoon, but worse. He was horrible. He come out, he never stopped. He ran all the time. In fact, it was hard for us to even get a picture. But he looked mean. He looked like he would tear you up. And all I could say is, wow. I don't want to see him. I do not want to see him at all up close and personal. But he was interesting. And then the orangutan's name was Milo. Milo was a trip, okay? Milo reminded me like he might be somebody I know because he sat looking at you, but there were 3 orangutans there, but he wouldn't let the other 2 come out. He would cover them up with a little yellow blanket that they had. So he kept them covered. And every time they tried to come out, he'd cover them back up. And he'd look at the crowd, give you a funny little look. And then he had one of them's hand where he kept, I think it was their hand, where he kept chewing on it. And I said, man, that's just weird. But he was funny. The wombat was interesting. I'm like getting into nature just for a second because they were far off away. The giraffes were they were tall, and they had a baby giraffe that obviously had been born recently. So it was just now we walked in there probably about 10 miles, okay, because everything was so spread out. So you went to all the different sections. They had a section for the elephants, for the tigers, for the orangutan, for the sea life. It was, and you really needed 2 days to go through there or all day. And, we spent maybe 4 hours. And even in the 4 hours, we had walked a bunch of steps. And when I got back to the hotel, I don't think I barely ate that day. So, the other restaurant we ate at that I really liked was I think it was called Impina in Pina, and it was very good. It was an Italian restaurant, but I was asking culturally who is present a lot, and you could look around and see that there were a lot of the Asian population. You could find all of their foods on every single street. It's the same thing with Italian food. Um, I didn't see like Nigerian or Ethiopian foods. I didn't see any of that. I'm quite sure they were there, but I did not see them. But I did see a lot of food. They have every single big store you can think of. In the States, if you go to New York or maybe even Atlanta, in certain areas, you can find what they call those big, huge, um, they're like the state stores. They're considered to be the high end stores. So I took a picture. I didn't go in. They had Gucci and they had Coach and they had Christian Dior. You name it, it was there. All, and they were like maybe 2 blocks from my hotel. So I walked by them, and they were just, you had to be buzzed in. So they didn't need. I didn't go in them. I just took pictures of them. So that was very interesting to me, that and everybody walked around with high end stuff on, the shoes, I mean, like some people you'd see them with their whole look was high end, very impressive if you like that kind of stuff. I didn't buy anything but a bracelet, and I bought it at the lower end that I could afford. But even in the outlet, they had all of those kind of stores. They were there at the outlet. So it was just an interesting opportunity to meet people. And so I said this morning, I really wanted to talk a little bit about Rotary, because I don't know, by invitation, that's how I joined, by invitation. And sometimes you don't realize that the invitation has legs, and the legs may address how it will make your heart feel, your head feel, and your hard work feel. And that's what happened to me with Rotary. It's like it is just an organization that's been around for many, many years. I think this is the first project of the world's first club was really back in 1917, but originally it started back in 1905 and 1903, just with a little club and guess it was in Chicago. So Chicago was the first place that Rotary began, but it's become an international, phenomenal organization of people who serve. The current membership is at 1.4 million, and that is throughout the world. And they have raised money for every single area of specialty that is needed for the good of the world. They're down now to where polio. Now, Americans have not spoken of polio in years. it would be a rare thing for polio to be on the rise again for Americans. However, there are two countries that are still dealing with trying to eradicate polio, and they're down to only those two, and they're working on what's next. What can we do? Because obviously, it just cannot be money. It also has to be what efforts are being made. What vaccines are able to be given. How can they get them to those countries? Who will administer them? Who will be involved in that project? Well, they have Rotaries that actually that's what they do. They serve these underdeveloped areas, underdeveloped nations for that same purpose of making sure that how we live is how they intend for these people to move forward and live better. May not be as well as we live, but to not have, malaria and polio and AIDS and those things that really break down not just the family, but put people with the realization that death comes with those ailments. And so it's been an eye-opening thing for me. I don't know if anybody that probably really knows me knows that I do have a caring heart. Have always had it. My mother and father were always that way. So this has been actually an easy walk-in. Once it was introduced, I said, well, it makes sense to me. It makes sense that I would be good to others, that and teach the fact that if I'm good to others, I can teach that they can be good to others as well and pass it on. But anyway, it says, as I said, they have a neighborhood of friends, leaders, problem solvers of 1.4 million around the globe. And I'm telling you, 30,000 of them were in, Melbourne. They were there. It was like everywhere. And we walked around with our badges. Now, my criticism once again is that they only gave us a badge. That's it. We were disconjointed and almost like we were wanderers in a foreign land because we didn't know all the things that there were to be done. There were for us to do. Someone called me that came out of the Gulf Breeze, which is, over the bridge from me. And they said, oh, Doc, are you over here at the museum? They had a night at the museum. Didn't know about it. And so those are the kinds of things. So for the next person that comes behind me, they will be prepared because I'm writing up a report and making sure that I give them a way forward, because that to me was frustrating. When you're, and I traveled by myself. Whereas other people, if they don't travel in a group or other people traveling with them, you just don't know. But anyway, Rotary has a couple of nicknames that it used to be called. It says the trees are the nickname for Rotarians in lumber business. So they used to use your business, so they might call me, educator. But for me, they don't necessarily use your title in Rotary. They use your name. Your name could be either your surname, your beginning name, your ending name, or it could be maybe what you do. Maybe that's you smile a lot. So you end up getting a little nickname along the way. But it says that if you might be in something like, say you're a physical fitness expert and you're part of Rotary, they may call you Muscles, those kinds of things, which is kind of cute, because they do try to make it where they're familiar with you and you with them. It says, that the start of Rotary, which I alluded to before, was 1905 by a lawyer named Paul Harris and three friends from a small downtown in downtown Chicago. And so you think about that, 1905, none of us were here. Okay. And here it is in 2023, and it's still going strong. It's still going strong. I mean, you would not, if you had seen all those people in those different venues, you would have been blown away. I was absolutely mouth drop, like, wow, where you have a full stadium of people all around, and I'm like amazed, just amazed. But anyway, it says that they named their new club Rotary to describe the practice of meeting in rotation at the members' various places of business. So that's how Rotary came about, was all about the fact that they would rotate around. Most clubs now, they meet in one location, and they may be a breakfast club, they may be a lunchtime club, they may be an evening club, um, or they may meet, once every week. They may meet, once every 2 weeks. So that all of those is based on how they set themselves up. Let's see. When you introduce yourself to anybody in Rotary, you're interested in bringing people in, you tell them my name is, and for me it would be, my name is Sandy. But when I joined my club, there were too many Sandras. There were many Sandras, not too many, but there were many Sandras. So I ended up taking, there was a Sandy, there was Sandras. So I took Winnie, which is my business name, Winnie and Associate. So I took Winnie. That's how I ended up being Winnie. And also my friend that used to work with me always called me Winnie. She never called me Sandra. So you end up introducing yourself, what you do, the fact of what you're interested in doing for Rotary, and all of that. Oops, I don't see my contacts. What happened? Oh, I see them now. I don't know. They just took a nosedive. They went away. Like, they have a lot of people who are what they would call famous people that are part of Rotary. Bill Gates, Neil Armstrong, Hillary Clinton. So, Sam Walton. And if you go to Walmart, that's his. So that it's been around a long time, and a lot of people are a part of it. The interesting thing is that women didn't join until 1987. That's when they were allowed to join. We haven't even come up on 40 years yet for them. Okay, 1987. So that just tells you something right there, that it was definitely a man's organization, and it was most of the percentage of membership at that time was white males. Women has grown now to about 40% of the membership. So they've grown exponentially, which is really wonderful. But in their growth, the first, let me get it right. The first woman to head up a club, I'm going to tell you who she was. Her name is Dr. Sylvia Whitlock. And Dr. Sylvia Whitlock actually was the president of the club of Duarte, California. And she became the very, very first female Rotary Club president. And I will be president of my Rotary. So there's some history. It's not the first. I might be the first in this area as maybe a black female, but I'm not the first female. I think we counted it back, and I might be the sixth female of my club, but the first black female. So history is still being made. The fact that we are still making history in entrance in various initiatives is a good thing. Just making sure that our presence is known. But Miss Sylvia, or Dr. Sylvia, is also black, and she was of Jamaican descent and born. But she was born in New York City, but she was educated in Kingston, Jamaica, and said that she returned and decided to get her BA in psychology from Hunter College. She later moved to California and earned a degree in education and a PhD in family therapy. So I don't know. Maybe one day I'll meet her. I don't know. But she was on stage. So the current president, who happens to be the first female of Rotary in regards to being the international president, is Jennifer E. Jones. And I liked her. She had spunk. She was dressed to my T too, and not her T, but my T. I said, well, I'd wear that. She had an awesome outfit. If you go online and you see some of my postings from Australia, you'll see that the opening ceremony, she brought it in with her way of just making people feel like this is the best organization ever. And she's out of Canada, but very, very sharp, very articulated, and articulate. And she, in fact, requests under her leadership that there would be a requirement for us to push to raise $100 million as Rotarians. And according to what everything that was said, they've done very well in that. I don't know the exact figure, but I have to go back through that slide because they were throwing down numbers and stuff so fast I couldn't get it. But I have to go back through her speech to come back and let you all know that. But there were a lot of people. But anyway, it just goes to show you that perseverance sometimes in areas where you may not see yourself still says that you have purpose, you have meaning, and there's somebody that's looking to receive what it is that you have to offer. And so that's what's made it really exciting to me. They said that the Bill Gates Foundation joined Rotary in 2000 and made it a part of their mission. Was what money was being made, that so much money would go to anything globally that is dealing with addressing the areas of polio and other areas that are seen of a necessity for people who are in need. And I just love that. There's clubs called Rotarac, and Rotarac those are the clubs that fall under, say, a traditional Rotary club. And those are where they're dealing with the youth, trying to get the youth involved in not only understanding their importance of them coming up and forming the idea of leadership early on, so that the aging population of Rotarians will be replaced by these young, idealists, young workers, young heartfelt people that can really look at how well they can serve going forward. And so they had a huge Rotarac youthful group there from several different portions of the country, actually the world. So that was really cool. Let's see, and then I wanted to just talk about the fact that if you ever think of joining something that you would never have considered joining before, talk to me. I didn't think I could be passionate about something that says it could help me and it could help others. I was amazed at the number of African nations there. They were well represented, and there's a couple of videos that I caught, at least one or two, where they were doing their dance and they all had on the same color. And they were doing their dance, and I said, "You don't mind?" They said, "Nope," they didn't mind me filming them. They wanted it, and I said, "Well, I'm going to post it." They said that was fine. So I took a couple of pictures with some of the people from Nigeria, Ghana. I had a couple of pictures from Korea. Let's see, the Philippines, you name it, I did it. Germany, France, let's see, England. So I did well. Trying to get around and meet people. I personally feel that one day, all of us will still continue to be in need. But if we put out our effort to say that we have helped somebody, that when we are in need, somebody will be willing and able to help us. So I certainly invite you, if you're in the area, to join me. Let me know if you can make, even my celebration on the 28th, which we'll do the change of command, and I will become president of Pensacola Suburban West Rotary Club. And I'm pretty excited about it. I still have a lot of work. I'm a little anxious because, you know, I'm taking on something that is bigger than me. Um, but my ideas are good. My direction is good. And I feel that I have the ability to do it. I'm just apprehensive, you know, because anything you take on that's new requires you to put in effort. And so I'm starting to put in the effort. God ordered your steps and you are walking in your purpose. Thank you so much. Thank you, you guys. I am going to get some rest. I don't know. I came back with some kind of allergy. I don't feel sick. I feel really good, but I know I'm a little tired, and I had some drainage here going on. But I love you guys. I appreciate you. You all, if you don't do anything else, share my video. Let people know that there are people out here that's trying to get involved in what we've not been involved in. And I can tell you that in terms of African Americans at this event, and maybe because the event is just so far away, that's why there wasn't representation. But yet and still, I would say this: um, we need to be there. You don't know what's being served if you're not at the table. Whoever made that statement up is so true. It's not mine, but it's so true. But I love you guys. And I will see you. I will see you on Wednesday. I'll be looking better. I'll be feeling better. I'm going to be better. Okay. Love you guys. So proud to be a Rotarian with you. I'm proud of you too. That's my little sweet friend. I call her Little Bit. That's Juanita. Y'all gonna meet Juanita. You come on down. Y'all meet Juanita. All right, guys. I love you, Lavender, Miss Rosie, Marion, my niece Rhonda. I always mess up her name. Bahia Nastati. That's Rhonda to me. That's my niece. I just call her Niecy. But anyway, I'm going to see all of you all later. Y'all take care. Behave here. You don't have to. But if you want to, you can. Love you guys. Thank you. See you soon. Bye-bye.